the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Remain standing. Lord, we thank you for this time together as a board and administration. We pray that you would be with us in our decision making tonight. And we thank you for the safety and the relative ease to the start of the school year. Thank you for the stamina and endurance of our staff members who are getting back into the swing of things. In Jesus' name I pray. Amen.
Amen.
All right, we will officially call our meeting to order. And the first thing on our agenda is the consent agenda items that the board members have had a chance to look over. It contains the bills, the meeting minutes. There is some revised policy there, and new insurance premiums, which is kind of more of an informational thing, right? And then the federal program assurances. So, board members, are there any questions on consent agenda? If not, we will consider them approved by unanimous consent. And we will move into the superintendent's update. And I believe we're going to start with Ms. Curry with the elementary report.
Yes. Okay. We have had a relatively smooth start to our school year. Our staff have worked really, really hard getting our students in our schedules and expectations, and so I'm very proud of them. Things are going pretty well. So we have our building goals that I listed here, which we will present in October at our report to the public, but we're just now initially taking our beginning of the year data, our assessments. So those don't have any numbers in our blanks right there, our literacy and math goals, so we will put a number in there too.
Have y'all seen the 22-23 numbers yet? They're not published. I just didn't know if y'all had advanced access to them.
Yes.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
So, but those will be presented in the October.
Yes, and what we do is during the month of September, we take all of our initial assessments. So we do our state required assessment and lots of screenings in the classroom. So we're just now doing that. The teachers did it last week and this week. So we'll have those numbers pretty soon. So we do have a social emotional goal as well. We're going to continue implementing and monitoring our multi-tiered behavior system and make appropriate decisions necessary for all of our students. And our wellness goal this year is going to be to involve students, parents, and community in activities that promote healthy lifestyle and provide them with necessary skills and support. So we've had quite a few parents reach out, and we just want to do some different things involving our parents and community in the classroom. So we're excited about some of those things coming.
I mentioned the structure that you have, that you're doing something a little bit different in your parental involvement. They may not be aware of that.
Yes, so we're two different things actually. So in the classroom, once per semester, we've asked each grade to involve our parents in some sort of instructional activity. So instead of like a parent night or maybe a, like literacy night or something like that, where they'll be participating in some sort of project or activity that goes along with what they're teaching. So we're going to invite parents to come in and be a part of that, whether it's a culminating activity or to help kind of facilitate that. So we haven't had any of those yet, but we're real excited because they'll get to come into the classroom for that. And we're just going to try one a semester and see how that goes. And then I'm going to start a coffee with principal coming up here in September, just to kind of engage our parents in just more of a roundtable, very informal discussion on what do they need from us, and then important topics like attendance and parenting, things that maybe we can help with and partner with. So we're starting that here in a couple weeks.
Good. Very good. And I know we have Ms. Meshrush here, and I had just a moment to hear you talk about the influx of students. Can you speak to how your school year has gotten kicked off?
It's been busy. We've had quite a few littles enroll, and they transferred from out of state within Garland County. So we're managing.
Are we exceeding capacity yet?
Not yet.
Are we looking for teacher?
Not yet.
Okay.
Not yet.
So how many, since the first day of school, just to give me an idea, how many students, special education students, have you enrolled?
K-12, about 30.
Wow.
Just in elementary, we have 15 that transferred in.
And then 8 speech only. So it's been the most I've ever seen before.
well, Fountain Lake does have a great reputation in the way that we take care of our special education students. So I can understand why that might be happening, and, you know, we're here. So when it gets to that point where we need a teacher, we'll be ready to help y'all out with that. So, thank you for that update. And Ms. Inman, you have some middle school info.
Yes, so we have been busy as well, doing kind of a lot of, I mean, we're pretty much on the same thing. We've been doing all of our initial screeners. When the students took their assessments last spring, I mean, that was in March, April, so this puts them in, you know, several months have passed, so just kind of seeing where they are. We did change to a new SEL program this year that's called Character Strong, and so that's supporting the efforts that have been in place for years through Leader in Me, but just to give them an additional layer and component there. We, one of our big goals, of course, has continued to be student discipline, and to make sure that that is in a better place. There's lots of changes in the middle school as they move from elementary to middle, and so we're still working really hard on that. We did have a 49% reduction last year, and so we're continuing that work. We were really excited. We only had 5 discipline referrals so far this year, so that's
And I was going to ask, were those younger or older students?
they're older, but yeah, so
Which is surprising to me, because you would think they know.
well, a lot of people haven't seen each other over the summer, and so maybe they had some personal problems, but they hadn't seen each other for months, and now they're, you know, back together. So we have to figure out who's boss. But we have new curriculum in our building, and so a lot of our time, focus, and attention has been towards that, with the teachers just getting to know and understand their new work that they're doing with the students. And it's a lot different from the material that we were using previously, but they feel really motivated for that. So our goal is proficiency and just meeting the students where they are. And one thing that was important to us is for the students to take participation in that goal setting. Instead of us just telling them what their goals were, we're working really hard with their advisors for them to be setting those personal academic goals, because that's something people need to do, you know, for the rest of their life.
Right.
So, yep.
Good.
So that's what we have going on.
Good. All right. And Mr. J. Tell us
So
what's going on.
so you're going to take a look at our goals from last year. Weighted achievement I threw in there because that's on our school report card. We don't have those numbers yet, but it just kind of gives you the idea of kind of what we're wanting to beat. Okay. Go ahead and just kind of draw down a little bit more. All right, so we're looking at our ACT Aspire scores from spring. And these are just numbers that we're trying to compile so you kind of get an idea. Our goal was to move 10% from in need of support to close and close to ready. So Ms. Robertson did some work on trying to locate that cohort group. So these were kids that we had in, say, 9th grade to 10th grade, and then also 8th to 9th, because we were trying to also move those 9th graders. So these would be our current 11th graders and current 10th graders. So you'll notice in need of support to close in math, that our current juniors, we only moved 8.7% of them, and that actually ended up being like 2 kids out of the group of like 17 that was that cohort. But we are moving students, reading, science. We'd like to see those numbers increase even more so that our numbers in need of support are much lower. Keep in mind, you know, we test everybody, so we'll continue to look at those. And it also helps us kind of figure out instructionally what we need to do a better job to help moving our kids up.
Yeah. Can I ask you, I'm very interested in those numbers, but as I'm looking at them, I'm looking over in the right-hand column at your current enrollment. What is going on there?
Don't know. Nothing.
75 kids that are seniors? Was it that
No.
small of a group last year?
Yes.
Yes.
Now the senior class, if you'll go back, even the one they started off as kindergarten, they have been that small all the way through.
Okay.
And even dealing with them in the middle school, I mean, highest number I ever had out of this senior class was maybe 82, 83.
Okay.
but I mean, it has hovered there. What surprised me is I know our 10th grade should have been a little higher, and 11th grade was probably about 20 students higher. So where they're going, I couldn't tell you. But I know, you know, we have withdrawals, we've got kids going different schools, out of state, and looking at different options.
So we dropped 43 from last year.
We dropped 43 students
And
at the beginning of this year, and we added 20. And that's going to be multiple grades.
That's a negative, what, 23?
23 kids.
In the high
correct.
school, 9 through 12.
Correct.
How does it look in elementary and middle?
Well, we were nervous the first week, but now we've stabilized back up. I guess they just took a little extra week of summer before
Okay.
before all the other schools started. But we're sitting at 408, so we're right at about the same that we were last year. It's really
Okay.
kind of leveled off.
Okay, elementary?
Our smallest house is 92.
Ours
Sorry.
is pretty similar. I don't remember the exact count with preschool. I think this is pretty close to like 480 something. Kindergarten class is a little bit smaller than last year, but we had about the same amount move in and out, so we're not really that far off.
That's what happened to us too. At the beginning, there was a lot more that had left than come in, but then after the first week, it had balanced.
Because I know when we had our last meeting, on the first day of school,
Hard to tell.
it was hard to tell, but we're down like 150 kids.
Yeah.
You know, you and I visited on the phone about that, and pulled, just kind of looked historically and was able to look at the number of kids in Garland County and what has trended from 2018 until present, starting with almost 15,000 students enrolled. There's been a loss of about 915 students to current date in our county. On the number of students that were being served versus the number of students today. So I mean, when I've talked to some other schools, some schools remain hold to be flat, might see peaks here or there, but you know, as a whole, Lake Hamilton being one of the larger schools in our county, the largest, has experienced some decline in enrollment as well. So I attribute a piece of this not knowing the influx of students versus, but data trend lines from 2018 current would indicate the number of kids enrolled in our county to be down roughly 915.
Okay. Well, I'm glad ours just kind of rebounded from day one anyway.
Right.
All right, Mr. J, anything else?
Yeah, that's more in there. So we're going to go to the school quality. So benchmarks on the ACT, 18 in English, 22, 22, and 22 on the rest of the subjects. So in 2022, 19% of our kids hit that benchmark. In 2023, only 14% of our kids hit that benchmark. And that's, once again, you have to hit all 4 in the college and career readiness is what I'm showing you. We'd like to see that number increase, obviously. Based on the information from last year and this year, 50% of our students who take the ACT in their junior year, 50% of them are 18 or below. So, I mean, we're compiling the numbers and trying to figure out
Right.
what can we do to better help our kids, especially when they take the ACT. It could be something as simple as the way we ask classroom questions and increase that rigor. But you've got to ask it in the same style that they're asking it on that formative test. So compared to us, here's Fountain Lake, compared to the nation, not the state, and we'll do the state numbers when we do our report in October. We're still behind. If you start looking at graphs, yeah, we're
You're a
we're
point
behind.
behind.
The disciplinary referrals, and most of ours are cell phones and dress code violations at this point in time. A couple of things we're going to mention to you. And I'm actually going to go to the community service requirement. So this year, community service becomes a part of graduation for our kids. So, Mr. Campbell, I thought I gave you access to that.
Denied.
Fishing.
Fishing.
Access denied.
Got it.
I tried. Said you get it now. Oh, there you go.
There it is.
It's trying to hold a drum roll meetings.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, so here's the commissioner's number, and this is about community service. So, best way to put this, there is a new graduation requirement for this year's 9th grade class. So if I'm a 10th, 11th, or 12th grade, I can still fall into the old community service learning requirement of 75 hours, and I can receive a credit to add to my transcript, but it has to be documented community service, and they have to do a reflection, and there's planning. So it's not just, oh, I want to go out and do community service and do this. There's a whole list of things that you're supposed to take care of and tie it back to why you're doing it and the curriculum that you're doing it with. So even if you're out with a club and you're working with community service, you're going to have to do a reflection, you're going to have to tie it back to the why is the club doing this. So, and I kind of stole this off of a PowerPoint coming out of Bentonville. So old law, 75 hours, and this is all optional on the left. So they can get an academic credit, add it to their transcript, and we go and put a course code. There's no grade on that credit. But if I'm a senior and I'm at 23 credits and I'm going, how do I get one more? There's 75 hours if you're willing to get out there and get the work done that you can grab, and there's a fast credit. So here's the new law. Still a community service credit. They break it down into 15 hours for freshmen and 20 hours for sophomores, juniors, and seniors. Can they get all 75 hours in 1 year? The answer is yes. There are some waivers that are out there, and yeah, okay. So here's the long list of stuff. This is about providing service to communities, but you got to remember, even for us, being in a rural district, it's very hard for kids to go out and find places to do community service that you can either get them to or that you can trust, for that matter. Mr. Freeman with FACES has got it set up. If our kids want to earn some hours of credit through him, they need to sign up with him, and he will get them spots, and they can start working on that 15 hours, or they want to do more. So we're looking at the 75 hours. Once again, it doesn't matter to them if it's 30 hours in 1 year, all 75 hours in 1 year. There are some still...
But they have to start as a freshman.
Yes, they want them to start as a freshman, because you don't want to wake up in your junior year and go, oh, I have all these requirements.
Right.
Okay. So the community service should be only completed at the parent's discretion. That's not really what the memo originally came out with, so this is still going to be a process for all of us to continue to learn, but if we continue to wait on somebody else to give us the rules and regs, our kids are going to get behind, and that's pretty much the consent of everyone else. Parents are responsible for giving permission, vetting all situations, and going through precautionary safety protocols. And after that, I'm not going to read that to you, because I know you can read that. But community service is about serving the community. The old service, community service credit, you'll notice, and I underline this for y'all to look at, approval from the local board remains except when the community service is supervised by school staff. So under the community service credit, you're supposed to approve something if it's not approved through the school. So if somebody wants to do something outside of us that we're unfamiliar with, they would have to bring it to you. At one point in time, it was through the Arkansas Department, State Board of Education, and they kind of threw themselves.
But you're talking for credit, so you went back to the old. So probably the biggest reason we wanted to get this to you guys, and Mr. J and I have been discussing this, is we don't really have strong guidance from the department.
Correct.
At this point in time to guide our community forward in this process. And most schools are either going to wait, which in turn the freshman class may not get their 15 hours that they're seeking without this guidance from the department. There was at one time a list that was up and it was taken down. So if you hear anyone saying that, well, I heard there was a list of available community service providers and the department removed that. The only other thing that we would share with you at this point is, as we move forward, we really have the autonomy to work with our parents, work with our community locally to allow these hours to occur, even to the degree that we've discussed, you know, until we get further guidance in this, the parents can help us craft where we want to take this. It's just, we have to devise a plan to document it.
Right, and we do have the documentation paper in here. The one thing we're still scratching our head about is, do the kids have to go back and do the preparation and reflection? That one's still kind of a very muddy area. If you don't mind clicking on that, you're going to tell me you don't have access.
So like here, could it be like reading to elementary kids? Could it be opening car doors?
Yes.
Yes?
As we understand it at this
Yes.
point in time, yes.
They can also double dip. So let's say that they're in Beta Club or they're in another leadership or service initiative. Those hours can count for both entities, which is really great because that was one of the original things that people said they weren't going to be able to do, and they
Right.
can because they're still serving the community.
Absolutely.
And this is from the old form for the community service credit. So it's still, I mean, we haven't made any adjustments to this portion of it because it still goes back into reflection, you know, how will it benefit, what your project, and the second page is signatures.
Right.
So at that point in time, you know, we know our kids have a personalized success plan, we've got folders for them. This would be a place for them to dump that information, so we do have a copy of it for them, then also probably a hard copy within their permanent folder. And once again, this doesn't affect 10th, 11th, and 12th grade at this time, so it's only the 9th grade class moving forward.
Caleb could share some of his community service hours with somebody that needed them. He's got a bunch.
Dr. Murphy also had a question about, you know, what our counselors were doing to help our seniors at this point in time, so I'm going to kind of, Mr. Campbell, if you don't mind putting in flcobras.com, and we're going to take you to the website. Coach Rhodes has been working with this DSLAB, and he has a student who is working on cleaning up parts of the high school site. So they started on their, on the counselor's corner part. So once you get to the website, jump in the menu.
So first you gotta go to high school.
Yes,
Yes.
go to high school. Like I said, if you'll notice, like Cobra Band is still from 2020, 21, 22, so they are still working on this. If you'll click on our 2024 virtual classroom, some of this, and then click again on it. Once you click on the page is now live. I'd like to see if we can't get it where you just click after the first one and make it live.
That's if they're staring at the page.
You were staring at the page, you couldn't get it to go live.
Yeah,
I don't need a picture.
it's okay. I did it the first time too, so I was going, and then she told me that, you know, that right now I guess there's just that extra click, but now everything on the page is live, so if you click on where it says scholarships, it's going to take you to what we currently have. And these are things that have come to us. Now, I know that she'll end up with tassel time, we'll have more information, and I know there was a question about, is there a way to create a one-stop shop? At this point in time, no, because they have so many things
Because,
going.
like Dr. Murphy said, if you click on 23, it shows you down at the bottom.
Yeah. On the
Yeah,
tab.
you can
So you can
see
look at
all
last
the
year's-
scholarships that were available.
And see,
Correct.
a lot of this may be.
Deadlines,
Right,
which I think
correct.
that
And those
would
are
be
things
very
that, as they become available back to us in 2024, she puts them in there so they become, once again, those live links, and you're not going somewhere where it's outdated.
And I'd ask for access from Abby to this one, because that 22, 23 needs to be changed.
Okay.
She hadn't given me access.
Well,
That's
that's,
the story of my life.
that's right. I shared them with Rob, and he's right up there. Then we did put some dates as well.
Or do you want me to go back?
Back to board report, yes, sir.
I think that's right.
Or back?
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
Yeah, because once you go in there, you can
Really cool.
see what's going on.
And the kids know about this?
Yes. So she has visited with the entire senior class, her and Miss Hensley both. They've gone through with them with their Google Classroom because it's almost mirrored image of both. So the kids have access. Getting it on the website kind of helps the parents. Now they have access to the same thing the kids see.
Right.
That's what we were finding out with the Google Classroom on some of the limitations. If you came in as an invited guardian, you weren't necessarily open to the live clicks.
I like that live page, it's really
Yeah,
cute.
the live page is,
Where you can open the drawer,
More
click on
people
the
access.
computer, click on the books.
Right.
Yeah.
So she's currently working on that. These are some of the dates that we've got coming up. We did a 9/11 assembly today. Obviously, you know, the Garland County Fair is going on this week. We do have some college representatives coming on campus as well. Honor Society has an induction. If you have a senior or even a junior on the 25th, financial aid for seniors, it'll be at 6 o'clock, and that's with their parents. They do need to be aware that, I guess, FAFSA has moved their origination date from October 1 to December 1. The state's still going to open their site in October. I guess if they click on for FAFSA at the state level, it'll just go to a spinning zone, I don't know. But why they moved their date, we're not sure. We do have some visitations going on, National Park, HAZVAD for juniors, and then I ran you all the way into October 6th for homecoming. And then also there's a live link in there. I hope Mr. Campbell has that one. Oh, look at that. So if you want to see what our broadcasting teams are doing in the morning, these are their morning announcements.
Good morning, Congress, and welcome to the morning news. It's Monday, September 11th. I'm Claire.
And I'm Walker. Let's get into the announcements. The bit?
So, once again, you
I love
can check
that.
them out and see what kind of things they're pushing out for us.
don't they have those archived? I mean, they put them into YouTube or something where you could see them?
Yes,
Search
might do the
one or
same thing
something.
to, get them attached to the website so they can do the same thing.
Are they currently attached to the website?
I don't believe so.
Okay.
Like I said, there's still some work on the website that Mr. Rhodes.
That would be fun to go back,
Working on.
just see what's going on, watch
They are
it.
getting archived, I can give you the link, the public link to post on the website.
So they go into a channel.
Same way our board videos do, yes.
Cool. And the East students did that virtual page, right?
Yeah, the logo where the Cobra head comes on was
No,
created
the
out.
class of 2024,
The virtual
the
classroom.
virtual classroom. Who did that?
Actually, Ms. Keys created that classroom, that's on her Google Classroom setup.
Oh, is it? Okay.
And then they've created that link between the two, so wherever she changes on her Google Classroom, changes on the website at the same
Gotcha.
time.
Cool. Some good stuff. We're only a month into school. We're not even, are we a month in yet?
Close, but just remember, in 2 months, you'll be out chopping down your Christmas tree.
Yeah, no, don't say that. It's in my attic. I'll drag it down, put it up. Okay, so thank you, principals, for those updates. That was some good information. Dr. Murphy, want to walk us through our year-end numbers?
Well, I wish they were finalized, but they're not.
Okay.
And I will talk to you quickly about some numbers. We're still struggling with our QSCAB completion. As a matter of fact, Andy was on the phone with them again today in terms of the completion of that work. The intent of what you approved last month, if you look at Fund 2, it has $3,151,000 roughly in that fund. We're still awaiting that final transfer. So Skip, if you could just come down to where year-to-date, and it's all the same, but from a year-to-date perspective, it still remains to be the opening balance when we close and transfer will be $2.6 million. The difference between $2.6 million and $3.1 million will be the eligible transfer into Fund 3. But don't look to the left for that number. You see the remaining amount on the far right, which is only $21,000 remaining in Fund 3 until your transfer is complete. So you roughly have $3.1 million currently. You'll take the difference between 2.6 million. That's where we will open Fund 2 based on our discussion last month. And we will transfer the remaining amount. It'll be roughly an opening balance of about 573,000 and some odd change. So overall, the budget has been designed reflective of those items, and we'll be discussing the budget here coming up shortly. Unfortunately, it was a lot more interesting, an opportunity to see some of the things kids are doing versus the numbers that we're creating here, but the numbers make sure we get to do the things we want to do with the kids.
Right.
So it all works together.
Mhm.
Any questions regarding those balances? This is our revenue report. Revenue, of course, is just in its inception, just kind of getting things rolling, but you can kind of see percentage of year-to-date collections as a whole, and then you can take a peek at based on the current budget allotment of what you'd be approving this evening of an $18 million budget in funds 1, 2, and 4, you can see the relationships of supplies and services just short through all the work that we did over the summer and into the fall, 42% of that overall allotment. And the other thing that kind of goes with that is a lot of supplies that teachers purchase coming into the school year. All the classroom supplies that they have, principal supplies that they purchase. So it's a culmination of all those things with other capital improvements. It's kind of got us not quite halfway through the percentage of that budget. That's a snapshot of revenue and expenditure. The only thing I would kind of add with the ESSER funds, it did require us to locally budget around $192,000 to fulfill the obligation of the ESSER budget based on what we were spending on summer school and other related activities. This is proposed. It's not totally finalized at this point, but we did have to we approved a $5,000 and $2,500 bonus coming up here in the fall. And we were paying for that out of ESSER funds. So this budget you'll be adopting tonight, of that $900,000+ expenditure, $192,000 of that would be out of local effort. And it is budgeted because it was approved back in the spring. But those are kind of the three things that I would tell you, and probably what we need to do with the ESSER budget now that we're where we're at. As soon as we can get cycle 13, get the year closed out, get ourselves in a position to prepare for the auditor, we need to give you kind of that finalized, here's where ESSER has landed, because we've, through the budgeting process, we will have expended all of our ESSER resources by the conclusion of this year. So we need to really nail down, move that from proposed to final.
Right.
Because this is the last year that we'll be using ESSER to pay for lead teachers and stuff like that, right?
Yes.
What other positions are paid out of ESSER besides that? Just that we would.
Then we have to look at leads, was the, go back up there again.
And the testings? No.
No, we only did that once.
Once,
The mental health support, I think we've gotten that pulled out already. So right now, I think we're down to the lead teachers and the social workers.
Yes, social workers, the addition.
It'd be those two numbers right there that we're going to have to figure out how to.
And that would be for budgetarily for 24, 25. Any other questions? All right, thank you. The only other item I have is item E. I wanted to add that in here. September is always take your legislator back to school month. Things are kind of kicked off. Of course, they're in session today.
Yeah.
And so I don't know, saw several things that they're trying to take a look at while in session. I think some of it's some cleanup, but other parts of it I'm reading into a little bit more to learn a little bit more on what they're doing with basically the voucher program. I see it back on there, calling it Senate Bill 5, I believe, but kind of looking at that, and then some FOI issues that they're trying to address as well. But the point I'm trying to make is I want to extend an opportunity for the board, either collectively as a group or at different times. Would love to take you throughout the campus. Principals would love to take you into some classrooms, show you some of the different programs, any and all of that. So let me know areas of the campus that you'd like to take a look at, and we can do that as a coordinated effort, or if we can't all make it the same day, I'm more than willing to do it more than once. So just let me know if when you might have some availability. We'd love to take you around the campus, let the principals know that you're coming, and try to address any specific questions you might have as a board member in terms of really getting in and getting to see some of the programs and how we've kind of designed some of the cleaning routine. Very pleased with overall campus as a whole. They've done a really good job of, I can see the inherent difference from what a year has made.
Yes.
So I'm proud of that as well. So just let me know on the,
Maybe we could put together
Walkthrough.
a date
Yeah,
on our calendar
you bet.
that would work, and we could come out and,
pick a good weather day.
okay.
No rain.
No rain and no heat.
Fair weather day.
Yeah, we'll be
Todd
fair
Jacoby.
weather
That's right.
walkthroughs.
Get the 10-day out on time to coach in. We'll
Yeah.
be fine.
He's gone.
That's where you missed
Yeah, you
the
missed it.
conversation you were talking about
Or
before the
45
meeting.
More than 45. It's like 5 minutes.
Okay, Hayden,
So on our capital improvements list, I've been some updates on it today. Just from about 2 months ago, just about everything has changed from yellow or white to green. All the items from 14 through about 30 got marked off. Kind of just leaves just a few things hanging out there. We've had the LED sign discussion many times. We've talked about doing that as a Fund 3 expenditure. Mr. Campbell, if you want to click on under column D, where it says sign layout design. So if we choose to go forward on the sign, this is what it would look like. And bottom, what you're seeing is just skirting along the bottom. We would be relocating our current post and the location of it, move it towards the RDOT right away, towards the highway, a little bit closer to the sidewalk. And it would have skirting on the bottom of it, kind of help hide the pole. They would be reusing our same pole. That's
And
trying to
they
keep our
are
costs down.
moving it?
Yes, they are moving it.
Okay.
Since we have looked at this last, about 3 months ago or so, that sign has gone up about $6,000 just from price inflation. So we're at $52,500 roughly for the sign installed. If you want to click on where it says slides of other schools in the yellow still. So it'd be very similar to these.
Showing signs. Oh, good, look at some signs.
Yeah, this was a recent one. You go to the next one. That's Whitehall, soon to be. I think they're installing that within about 2 weeks. And do the next slide. This was a nice one, kind of a bad angle to see. Do the next one more, Mr. Campbell. So this would be the same exact sign that would be getting. Now we're not doing the brick, facade, the arch up top. So just the sign, the quality of the sign is very phenomenal. This angle is not a very good angle. Mark sent this to me, Bridges, and said, and the installer took the picture. So but it's a very beautiful sign.
So, are you
Full
saying
OLED.
ours would be on the ground like this?
Not currently, we use the existing sign posts we have. He just showing you
Oh,
the
okay.
different
Yeah.
I kind of
signs.
like the ones on the ground, but
Right.
those are really pretty.
Yeah. And we did put a little, we do have, we talked about doing some landscaping to really address the whole frontage up too. That's something we could talk about, if we wanted to do that along with the sign, or just do the sign for now, come back later on for the landscaping piece to help, pull it all together. think that was the last one, Mr. Campbell. But ACE in general, so I've worked with Mark, go back to the capital improvements list. There we go, click on where it says website. And feel free to go to the website, they do tons and tons of business in Arkansas. They're located in Little Rock, right on I-30 on the right-hand side. Click where it says products. And scroll to the very bottom. So you can browse through here and see a lot of other schools, churches. Scroll on down, keep going, keep going, keep going, keep going, very bottom. Right there, there you go. So you can scroll through and look at all the other signs. There was one really nice one that they did. I want to say it was Brinkley, not Brinkley, maybe Lona. It turned out very nice on this website as well. So they're pretty much all over the state of Arkansas. But we went and looked at 2 signs, very nice, high quality. So very impressive just on the features that we give. You know, we want something very easy to use, user friendly. And one thing that's nice about this is we do go with ACE. Part of the package is a whole network suite of apps on how to manage the sign. Before we had a point-to-point wireless, so that we can only work like in Mr. Campbell's office or when we had our PR person. So this would be anyone on the campus that has authorization could update the sign. So, any discussion on that?
You can't have access to the sign.
Is that something we want to make a priority? Do we want to do that? Have that ready for the next upcoming board meeting? If you want to talk about it.
What I discussed with Hayden is I'm open to moving this process forward. I'd like for you to have an opportunity to address any questions that you may have. Looking at the overall capital improvement plan, trying to think about the priorities, having an opportunity to see that you have roughly in Fund 3, $570,000 to work with, and you may not even want to expend all of the $573,000 in the current year. So it is currently unallocated. The one thing on that list that I would kind of segue into is we did move the AC on the school buses. I moved that over into Fund 2. I sent you guys an email on that, so it is budgeted out of Fund 2, just based on kind of the heat that we went through again this fall. I know Mr. George took a bus ride.
Is it budgeted out of Fund 2 prior to making that
What's the
move?
question?
You said it was budgeted out of
It's
Fund 2?
been removed from this list and placed in Fund 2 as an allocated item, just like the $192,000 worth of salaries towards ESSER. This is an allocated expenditure in Fund 2. It's designed in the budget if you want to do it. Now, it could
So
be
it's in the current year's budget, the new year that just started?
the year we're in right now. We've moved it over there, but I'm not going to do it. I wanted to have that discussion with you guys tonight and let you kind of, because it can stay over here and it could occur out of Fund 3, which then gives us a reduction of expenditures of roughly a budget of $125,000 to cover all fleet buses remaining and 2 spares, because I told Hayden we're not going to do this and then take 2 activity buses out on the road, and all of a sudden we got 2 buses or 3 buses that don't have AC in the routes.
What's the, on those 8 buses, what's the year long of those buses? How much longer do we have them? Curious.
You have that there?
I've got fleet average on the route currently is 6.78 years. So that's the average age of the buses that are on the route.
Surely these are older buses that don't have AC, right?
They are.
There are a couple of buses on the routes that are 14, 15, 17. Looking here to see, I asked her, I think, to get me
In the last 6 years, all the buses we purchased are all
list on
AC.
That's
AC.
what I
The newer
figured.
buses
That's
are
what I
now
figured.
The last 6 years are all AC.
Yes, those
So-
newer ones. I mean, you're looking at equipping buses with AC between
15 and 18.
10 to, the oldest one is 17.
Right.
That's currently on route.
How much life do they have left in them?
Well, there's one bus that is still running with 23 years.
Okay, that's what I was.
There's another one that's used as a spare with 25 years still in service and
Okay.
used at times. So
Okay. What, if the age was like 18?
Yeah, that'd be.
Would be kind of
Yeah, you don't
silly
want
put it
to
in
equip a
one.
bus that's gonna go down
Right.
immediately. But, you know, I just wanted you to be aware that that is something that I made a commitment to. One, after our concerns, we placed some water and
Yeah.
there were some other schools that chose to do some early release, some other things due to the bus ride.
Yeah.
You know, it is something that we're a little over halfway there, right at halfway, and so this would complete our fleet, as far as that.
And so-
Today it was hot.
Yeah, and I'm in favor of the project. I was just trying to understand.
Yeah, the allocation of funds.
Right, and so you're just gonna take it out of Fund 2 because you're anticipating that our budget for Fund 2 this year will have at least that much excess in it.
No, it's not excess, it's a designed element of the budget. We
Okay.
work to trim other areas within the budget to go ahead
Okay.
and budget this item in the budget. It's
Gotcha.
not budgeted as a component of surplus.
Okay, that was my question.
Yes, it
Okay.
is.
You actually worked it into the budget as a line item.
If we want to move this back, then we would take that amount of money out of the budgetary expenses
Yeah.
right now that are right at 18 million and push us back down below 17 million.
No,
Or
I'm good
below-
with doing it that way. I just
below
want to
18.
understand.
Okay,
Yeah,
yeah.
and just on the
Good question.
logistics too, if we do move forward on it, we'll probably just send one bus at a time, just because we don't have that many
Oh, yeah.
spares. So it wouldn't be all done like within 2 months.
Right.
Yeah.
No, it would take literally the rest of this year.
Right,
But they'd be ready by
But they would be
Right.
ready for next August.
Yeah.
To kind of put a bow tie on what you're looking at, back to what we were originally alluding to on the communication sign, knowing that that number comes out of it, the communication sign would be a part of a Fund 3 expenditure. And I wanted you to really address any questions that you may have, because I would like to either, if you're comfortable, move forward this evening. If you're not comfortable, I'd like to bring it before the board for a vote next month. That we really do need to put a presence in front of our campus on a continuing basis.
I agree, but like, I see like, I know we still haven't got a estimate for the field house locker rooms and.
Correct, and that's
bathrooms.
why that if you want to wait,
Well, then you
wait
look at,
till
what's
October.
the gym weight room addition, you know, I see, like, our kids are, like, I love the idea of the sign, and we need a sign, but does that take precedence over something our kids could use before, you know what I'm saying, like the weight room or the 1950s pipe in the bathroom at the field house? Or
Right.
whatever, I know I've been up there watching them guys wash clothes, and they're up there till whenever, because they gotta wait on the dry, or, you know, get up there first thing in the morning and throw them back in the dryer. So I dropped my kid off last week, and his clothes still wet, because it's just, I mean,
Yeah, there's an inherent need for probably everything on that list, and you know, you don't really want to, I've guided you to work with the cash that's available. If you ever get to a point as a district where you find that the inherent need exceeds the cash available, you have one option left as a board, and that's to borrow. And you know, we talked about the adjacent property. The only way that property would even be feasible would be a borrow, and so I've talked to Beardsley in that regard. But what I've tried to guide you with is a kind of an annual prioritization where we're working within the confines of what cash is available.
And this is the list that's
This
left.
is the list,
This
yes.
is what's left.
It's what's left, yeah, and we have met with Hill and Cox twice, done several work-throughs. We have a very nice 2D, aerial look down at what the locker room could be.
They've got a
So-
great plan. We don't
Right.
have a solid number at this point.
Right.
We do plan on bringing back a proposal for
Mhm.
your review next month.
Right.
And so it really boils down to where you want to place a element of prioritization.
I know we
I'm
can't
always
do-
transparent. I will tell you that the value of those numbers exceed what's in Fund 3. There is no way that you're going to do everything on that list for $573,000.
is that the number?
Because that's what's going to be available
Well, that doesn't add up to 573.
The locker room will take it over that amount.
Okay,
Yeah,
That number is
Okay.
blank.
right.
And it's probably gonna be the biggest number,
I've seen it for myself.
so.
Yeah, so we're approaching,
Oh,
just the.
And that's
square
why I
footage.
did not want to bring the sign to you tonight. In all fairness of decision-making, you need to see kind of a
Right.
projected element of numbers, but I also know, even though I get what you're saying, a K-12 communication sign does provide a continual presence for our community,
No, it does.
24/7,
And-
365 in front of our students.
The locker room can't be done until the first of the year anyway, because
because you're using
in
it.
season, and then the weight room, I mean, I don't think you're gonna do it until after basketball season, so you're looking.
It'd be a summer project
Yeah.
at best, yes.
I'm prepared to move on to highlighted buildings today. Are y'all? Or no?
Yeah, and I think we don't even, I mean, as long as we're all good with the AC coming out of Fund 2, yeah.
That's not part of it.
And, yeah, and then, one question about the sign, is it gonna be the same size as the one we have?
It'd be- Yes, it'd be slightly bigger. I think it's like 8 inches on each side. Yeah,
It will not be smaller.
it will not be smaller.
Okay. I mean,
Well, now it's gonna, it may look smaller, but the screen size itself is gonna be the same.
okay,
Because we're gonna be removing like all the top pieces, the border, be one big nice sign.
okay.
So, it
Is
may
this a
look
firm
smaller. What's
quote,
that?
the 52,
I just got that Friday, so that's
That's a
gonna go
firm
on.
quote?
I
Yes,
mean, if you approve, we can run with that
Yeah.
number.
yeah.
yeah, it does keep going.
No, I don't, but as long as we know that, like, we've got to address the other ones too.
Yes, and I honestly, I would move those two things up above the student parking lot. I mean, kids are okay parking on gravel for another year, and we'll probably, being that this is the first year of the new assessment money, we're gonna probably end up with some excess.
Did
Sure.
did y'all put some poles up there already?
Yeah, we're doing some lighting up there, that parking
Trying
lot.
to get
But it's
Should
not
have
this
that
line
now.
item, is it?
What's that?
Is it that
No.
student
No,
parking?
no, yeah. Yeah, the
Okay.
reason why we haven't moved forward since RDOT's right away is still in that parking lot.
Yeah.
So we're told, hopefully by the second, third week of November, we'll be able to at least, we'll have our ownership back in that parking lot.
The poles we put up are on that new parking area at that next level
Right,
up
at the
there.
football.
Yes,
But we do
okay.
have lighting, I ask you to shine lighting back towards the student lot and into
Right.
the other lot.
Yeah,
But as far as prioritization, I would, now, I'm going to say, when you do the LED sign and you get ready to install it, we should at the same time do the front of the campus cleanup and landscape.
Yeah, and
because-
what does that entail? What is that was,
well, we've kind of gone back and forth on that. You know, we could keep it something like what the front of the 2-4 building looks, where we do, you know, some boulders. And Mr. Campbell's laughing because he's saying Las Vegas over here.
The Bellagio. These dancing fountains.
Yeah.
So we thought about
We
that,
have-
I mean,
We
Yeah.
have looked
we
at
could do it
anything.
for free, cost efficient, and make it where it's just a dry sump style waterfall where there's no actual standing water. And Cole could do that for us. Of course, we have to bid it out, but,
Right.
No, you would have kids doing,
right. But we could do a fall that does recirculate, I
you
think
don't
he
want
said.
somebody putting bubbles and.
putting bubbles
Ours
and,
wouldn't have,
You know,
you
purple
couldn't get in it,
dye
you
and
get in
stuff.
it, it would be dry rocks. So they build them to where you can stand in it, the water percolates below it, so we couldn't afford to have a 3-foot.
I'm good without a water feature, honestly. If we could just put some landscaping up in front of the
Right.
gym, you know, it's just a
Right.
big old blank,
But I would definitely price it. I mean,
yeah. I mean, let's not go
I mean,
crazy.
for the fall and all, you could probably get it for under 40.
No?
No, I'm saying, I think community probably thinks we got more needs than water feature.
yeah, you
Right,
say,
that's what I'm
you say
saying.
under,
But some shrubs or something to dress.
Let's not get up.
You'll do something around the sign
Sure.
pole itself. you
Yeah.
know.
Yeah, we'll do
Probably
that whole
carry-
frontage.
Yeah.
Kind of like what
You
the
know,
2-4
the
looks
little
like.
bricks that come around through there, we kind of pulled that around there where we could carry that feature around, elevate that, do some things to kind of dress up there in front of the gym.
but we have an agricultural department. We
Mm-hmm.
could plant some plants out there.
We could.
Yeah.
We could save 40,000.
And that 40 was
Be
for
a great
a fall and
community
everything.
service project.
There you go.
There you go. Community service hours.
Right,
Good idea.
there you go.
Yeah. So I would say bring us this, or if that's a firm number on the sign, then,
Yeah, I got, that's as of Friday, that's ready to go.
so we can make a motion tonight to, to approve that when we get down to new business. If y'all want to approve that quote and get it going.
Just place it last in the agenda, you'll have had a chance to look at the budget, ask questions related to the budget.
Okay.
We've got a Fund 8 item that we're gonna take care of as far as a freezer, you can add that motion last.
Okay.
Now, on the weight room, is that number gonna go up? Is that?
Well, what we're gonna do is include them both in that one project, was kind of what we're thinking. So Hill and Cox will do
So you got
both at the
one-
same time.
Okay, I got you.
Yeah.
So that number would
One
be
contract.
folded into
It
the
would.
total number.
And we plan on next month, like I said, Hill and Cox has some really nice drawings, blueprints, some of
You
the
need to
1,
see
2,
it.
and 3 options.
Yeah.
Yeah, we're gonna wait till next month though, to get past all the budget
But our
stuff.
earliest timeline would be with approval and staging, we're thinking like, we wanna try to do this in the February timeframe at the field house. Before we get into the summer.
Yeah.
Because we think we can get better, we know we'll get a better going rate with them because they do a lot of school work and it's an off-season project for them.
Okay. All right. Monthly safety checklist. Everything looks good.
Yep, everything looks good. Only thing I'll mention is, as of now, we do have all of our classroom doors for high school, middle school, and elementary, all on what they call a storefront style. So if the door's shut, the door's locked. So it really takes just the mindset or, hey, did I lock my door? If I look at my door and it's closed, I know that it's locked. So I might not make that statement for all doors on campus, but for all classroom doors on campus, that is in place.
So are they mag locked?
No, this is just a storefront door handle. So if it's closed, it's locked.
Oh,
Yeah, just a traditional
Exit
door
from the
handle.
inside.
right.
Right,
You get a
Okay.
key enter from the outside.
right.
All
But it's
inside.
key entry from the outside.
Yeah, correct.
Okay,
Yeah.
it's not a
Just
swipe
change the
thing.
core lock out on it.
Okay, good.
So that helps a lot on this.
And that's
Yes.
been, that's been a pretty good sized number in
Yes.
our capital improvement program over the
Yeah.
last 2 years.
Right, and one
That's
of the
nearing
items-
completion.
Yes, and one of the items that we did our school safety grant reimbursement on was roughly 18,000 reimbursement that we got back, from, that was an approved item for the school safety grant.
Right.
So a lot of that came back that was an approved item for the door locks.
Good,
Yeah.
very good.
So that helps more of those places be a yes.
Yes.
Yes. Is that just a question?
Uh-huh.
Is that a pain for students, like if they leave to go to the restroom or somewhere, then somebody's gotta,
Yeah.
somebody's gotta come let them in?
Yeah, kind of the routine is, whoever's closest to the door, watch it, they knock, that one person lets them in.
Okay. All right, thanks for those updates, Hayden.
You're welcome.
Mr. Campbell?
Yes, ma'am. I put on here charter renewals. There's been an email discussion. I think we've pretty well sorted that out. It's not our intention to reapply for those charters. There may be some waivers that we would reapply for after they expire. Sorry, my hearing aid battery is talking to me. Sorry about that. Some of the middle school waivers will expire at the end of '24, and the high school waivers would expire at the end of '25. And we may look at some of those that we would have to reapply for, but we could apply for those because they're granted to other schools in our area now as it stands. So there was money when we initially applied for the charter, startup money, almost a little over $500,000 per charter.
Right.
The middle school's charter
Right.
expires at the end of this year, the high school's charter at the end of next year. And when we reapplied 5 years ago, there was no new money associated. There's no new money now.
Right.
And there's some latitude in some places to do things differently for everybody.
Yes,
And
that
then
weren't
with the-
in existence before.
Right, and then with the LEARNS Act, there are some constraints from doing things differently on everybody that exists now, and there are new requirements that are coming into place. We have individual personalized success plans with the students building their goals and all of the little outreach activities. And so as we begin to see more and more of the Learns Act rules, which is what we're waiting on,
Right.
for all of that big law, there are rules still to come.
Right.
And so as we see those rules come out, we'll have to adapt and adjust to those. So it was just not something that we thought we would move forward with. We've talked about it in
Yeah.
here a couple of times, several times. We've talked about it. You know, y'all had expressed your opinions from time to time about the charter. One of the concerns I have is that as we go into this educational freedom account, where you could potentially take a parent could take their child's educational freedom account money and go to a charter school, that's not our kind of charter.
Private charter.
That's a privately
Right.
owned charter.
Right.
And that's the kind of charter we are, and I think that has been a communication issue for 10 years.
It has.
People don't
Absolutely.
understand. We still have people to this day who want to know what kind of uniforms our kids wear.
Right.
You know, that sort of thing. And that was a concern at the beginning, and now 10 years later, here we sit, and it's still
Yeah.
Same
So next
concern.
year, we will go back to being Fountain Lake Middle School,
middle school. Yes, ma'am.
just Fountain Lake Middle
Yes,
School.
ma'am.
On the LEA number.
And as we
Local education,
advertise.
yes, everything from
As
the
we-
department's perspective still
Yes.
ties it to the digital chart. We have and call ourselves, in many instances, we refer to ourselves as a middle school.
Middle school, yeah. And we'll go back.
The name will
But our
disappear.
website and our,
Yes, all
everything
that.
associated with it, our
Anything at the
logo will
State
be
Department.
Fountain Lake Middle School.
Yes, and I would imagine that they will issue us a new LEA number for that
Yes.
building.
Mhm.
Because they did issue us one when we became a charter, a new
Okay.
one. So that will entail, they'll have to redo all of the accounts from 702 to whatever the new account number is, but that's.
Okay,
proceed.
that's on them.
Mhm. No, that's on us.
That's on Tammy.
Tammy. But we won't tell her.
I hope she's not watching.
Yeah.
I think she
Oh,
probably
she
is.
probably is.
Yeah.
What's like, off the top of your head, what kind of waivers are we going to have to reapply for?
You know, we have probably not a whole lot. I was looking at our waivers today, and they are linked on our website now under state required information. We have waivers for class size, which we never, I mean, we could go up to 40 in a class. We never
Used that.
Never used that. We have a waiver for some certifications. That's probably one that we would have to look at, though I don't know that we have anybody who's not a certified teacher anymore. We've had a few of those teaching specific courses, but I think everybody now has a
And there's
teaching
different
license.
pathways to bring a licensure approach.
Yes.
Greater flexibility on licensure that didn't exist 10 years ago. There was
Right.
real constraints in licensure that now there's multiple paths to licensure
Mhm.
for somebody that's non-career-based educator.
Right. So I really don't know that I haven't looked that deeply at the list, but I know that we had, between the two buildings, I think it was 31 waivers. Now, some of those are duplicates, but they're not things we ever used. They were just things that we had the ability to use if we wanted to, needed to.
So I can't open that document, but I was just gonna look at it while we were talking about it, but I can't figure out how to open
Okay.
it. The state required information.
Oh,
Let's go down. See, it goes in the circle back to that.
You got access to that?
Oh, it looked like it went, okay, there it is.
Numerous clicks.
Lots of clicking.
Yeah.
Okay.
So you have class size and teacher load, you see there are 3 of those under the high school. The principal, gifted and talented, we have a waiver on how we do that. The length of the instructional day, monitoring procedures to ensure curriculum alignment, principal licensure, principal qualifications and responsibilities. Salaries, teachers, when we filed our charter application initially, and then even when we reapplied, we worked with APSRC, the Arkansas Public School Resource Center, and they basically put together the list of common waivers that conversion charters ask for, and said you need to ask for these in the event that you need them.
Some of them we don't use.
Right.
Most of them we don't use.
Yeah.
We
Well,
got-
I think
The teacher licensure waiver is really the big one for us.
Yeah.
it was a class you and I discussed
Yeah,
when I first
so-
came on board, like an 8th grader, Frank, you
So
remember?
you get down here, it's career and
Yes.
technical education, 7-8. And so what we've already done is recoded all of those project classes that the
Right.
students still take to that course code. So they're getting their career and technical education course.
The state originally required that to be a course,
Yes.
right?
Yes, sir. A
Yes.
semester-long course.
And it's not now, or it still is?
It still is.
Still is, but our project classes all allow for us, that gives our kids opportunities to take multiple classes versus a specific career orientation class.
So that's like the stuff in the middle school,
They do for 9 weeks or a semester.
can they not do that? Like, do they have to do each one of those?
No, like they get to pick, but they have one they have a period every day,
Each 9
5th grade
weeks.
through 8th grade.
So if you didn't want one of them, you could get out of it. Like, could
Some
you
of
do
them
one
are-
of them the whole
some
time?
are a semester.
Or,
Now,
because like, I mean, they have one that's theater, that I hear a lot of the kids like, I'd rather go run a mile in PE than sit in theater. So,
Yeah.
if that's the case,
They would be in theater for 9 weeks, and they would move to something.
that's what I'm saying, can
Yeah.
they choose not to go to that?
They probably didn't choose anything, and that's what they got assigned.
Well, that's what I'm asking.
Yeah.
Can they choose not to go
No,
to that?
they have to go to something, and that's probably what there was.
That's
space
just,
to
like,
go
is there
to.
only four of them?
No.
No, there's,
More than likely, based on the time of the day it's offered, you probably don't have access to any of the coaches.
Yeah,
is there an
it's
athletic?
at the end of the day.
No, I know, but like the
Yeah, there are multiple.
multiple
Multiple choices.
project classes.
Yeah, they get more than 4, there's more than
More than
4 to
four
pick
choices.
from.
Okay.
Yes, definitely.
But once you're in it, you're in it, is what you're saying.
For
Until
9
it's
weeks.
not-
Yeah,
for
9
9
weeks,
yeah.
weeks, and you have to, you
Yeah.
switch out.
Yeah, and usually you're placed in what you picked. So if you end up in something you don't like, you probably picked it, or you didn't pick and you
Yeah,
got
somebody
put
push you
somewhere.
in.
They probably ask for like top 2 choices, top 3 choices.
Yes. And try to get you in your top 2 at some point in time in the year. So,
Okay.
any other questions about that? Just a brief update on the desegregation lawsuit. Our attorneys have filed the lawsuit, and the plaintiff's attorneys have asked for an extension of 30 days. And it looks like our
Grant
lawyers
that.
will agree to that, because the judge would probably agree to that.
Mhm.
My affidavit was 10 pages long, and so there were 7 of those, one from each school district, so it was, I think, a 26-item affidavit that I was
Mhm.
testifying to. And basically, using the State Department's Equity Division's annual report
Right.
as our documentation that we are meeting the needs of that lawsuit settlement from 30 years ago. And that we
Defining unitary status.
that we should be granted unitary status and get out from under the lawsuit settlement from 30 years ago. So that's what this lawsuit is. And the big reason for two big reasons for filing. Number one, we feel like we've met unitary status. And number two, the State Department of Education has said, if you don't do something to get moved towards unitary status, you're going to be placed on probation. And you'll be on probationary status in addition to being
Non-compliant with the unitary status.
Yeah, I mean.
So we had really not a lot of choice about filing this lawsuit.
Yes.
And
And I
a
think
settlement was proposed, was not formally proposed, but discussed, and did not come. At
Well, I'm
this
sure
point
everybody
to
saw the
fruition.
article in the paper,
Yeah.
you know, front page of the paper.
Which was a different definition of unitary status.
Right.
Mhm.
Right. Yeah, I figure this may drag out, but ultimately, because there are big conflicts between that agreement and the LEARNS Act and the ability for students to move freely among districts. So I figure ultimately this will be settled by a judge, and, you know, we'll just have to wait it out. We were hoping for a voluntary agreement to bring it to an end, but that is quite obviously not going to be the case after reading the front page of the newspaper. So
Yes.
we'll just wait for the court to play that out.
Not to put you on the spot, but historically, I know of one attempt to have it settled. Has there been more than that one?
There was one in
Other?
2014.
Right.
But
Just
the
before I
Hot
got
Springs
here.
School District did not participate
Right.
that time around. So it was just the other 6 school districts asking for unitary status, and the judge didn't grant that. It's just a very difficult situation because in 30 years, the population of Garland County, much as Dr. Murphy mentioned, that nearly 1,000 out of 15,000 students no longer reside in Garland County or attend
Right.
school in Garland County, public school in Garland County.
Mm-hmm.
There was virtually no Hispanic population when we entered this desegregation settlement 30 years ago. The State Department allows for 2 or more races to be listed as a racial category now.
Mm-hmm.
And so that was not there 30 years ago. So
Correct.
that dilutes the categories.
Yeah.
And if if the initial lawsuit settlement was to erase discrimination and to find a balance between, and this is what it says, between black and white student populations. The unfortunate thing is that 30 years later, you don't deal with the Hispanic population in that agreement, and you don't deal with the category of 2 or more races in that agreement. So it's just a very difficult thing, coupled with the LEARNS Act, which is going to allow people to take their money and go any place they want to go in 2 years.
Yeah.
And so our school choice, and we denied more school choice students by twice as many as the biggest school district in the county this year. And we have to deny based on the racial makeup of our district and the racial makeup of the district that they're coming from. So it's just a very, very difficult.
Yeah.
And those could be current students that attend school here.
Yeah, and that's just an old thing that needs to be settled and moved on from.
So that's in the pipeline, but we don't know where it will eventually settle out. So I'll keep you posted.
Good.
And then the last thing I had was just an informational Garland County reads. All of our schools in the county are reading the same book, same books. It's divided up by grade level.
Yeah.
And so some of our kids will be reading Kitty and Dragon, some of them How to Train Your Dragon, some of them The Hobbit, and some of them The Fourth Wing, all dragon books. And so that's something we're able to purchase those books using federal funds.
Okay.
And so every kid, every family then will receive whichever book it is that their grade level is reading in order. Those that receive them already, the copies of those books. So our kids will have those. But everybody gets a book and everybody will be reading the same thing. So. And they're kicking that off on Tuesday, October 26th with kind of a little festival at the farmer's market from 5 to 7. So
That's
would
awesome.
encourage you to visit that. There's no one signed up for public comments since,
There's nobody here.
so. Any questions for me?
No, thank you for those updates.
Yes, ma'am.
All right, let's move into new business. And Brian, I believe we have a motion.
We have a motion to approve the 23-24 FLSD budget.
Okay. And are we going in order there? We're looking at the expenditure budget first.
Yeah. Just following the order, what we've done is try to break out the categories relevant to salary, so you can scroll down, Mr. Campbell. The total allotment for salary is $11,642,453. That does include, if you look up there, and kind of peek around up there to line 613261.
5.0.
Trying to get, yeah, 510 and 520, where that shows
Oh, yeah.
the reflection of those allocated. That's a difference that we couldn't pay for in the ESSER funds. That's allocated within the salary side of things.
Okay.
So we roughly have the lion's share of just short of 70% of the overall allocation of the budget is designed towards the people that are working here. Then we have a area that reflects purchase services in the 6,300 range. This is an area where, the beige area, you kind of go through the decision-making processes of current staffing model. We do a lot of that prior to July 1, and then the contracts are initiated. This is an area that we look at annually as we move into the summer. We look at it then critically around August 1, so looking at summer projects, looking at remaining funds, looking at line items and programs that individuals are trying to institute. These numbers can change annually to kind of control expenses or allow for expenses to occur. So it's not just a cost-cutting measure, it's an allotment kind of based off of individual building level needs, but you can kind of see in that area, $3,108,396. Here again is budgeted. From there, you move into supply categories. Supplies, anything from the general supplies within each building, each department, to electricity, gas, textbooks, $1,733,000 allotted there. Equipment as a whole at $423,000. Here again, these are all budgetary items. Dues and fees, as a whole, that includes a lot of travel. When you think of dues and fees, how many dues, how many fees do you actually have to get to that? It encompasses a lot of the travel. It's an eligible expenditure related to travel and other areas as well. Here again, budgetary item, $157,000. When you look at debt service, we got a little reprieve a couple years ago. If you recall, there was a year we had $186,000 that we spent on interest and principal because we went through a restructuring of notes. The following year, it's closer to $380,000, I believe. We're now back to the brunt of interest and principal payments to the tune of $950,000. And so that, as that's entered back into our budgetary planning, it's kind of taken some of that flexibility that we were able to have kind of off the table, quite frankly, in terms of moving from a, roughly a $400,000 allocation to a $950,000. It kind of takes an element of restructuring there to occur. And we've tried to protect our people first in the context of what we do. The other thing that occurs with that is, as we've embraced the LEARNS Act, that's how I've learned to state it. We've embraced the LEARNS Act in the context of the work. It's raised all boats to a base level minimum of $50,000, and so that's increased the overall expenditure side of the fence. But as I've showed you in the spring, we are receiving some compensation from the state to the tune of, I think, $487,000 to help offset some of those costs, covering that. So as a whole, the budget is reflecting of a design of a potential expenditure of $18 million would be the overall allotment. We can kind of address any questions that you might have on this side. I would tell you that typically our budget will run the 92% range of the overall budget design. So it really doesn't run flush at 100% or 110% of the overall allocation. As I work with individual departments, I did not zero base this budget, but I had a lot of conversations around areas that when I saw historically that had not been used as an expenditure for 3 years, because I was taking a historical look at prior years in that regard. And so we did take some areas out of expenditures where they just had not been spending the money for multiple years. So some of that work was done in that regard. But that's the expenditure side of it. Mr. Campbell, you got a comment?
I was just asking where the bus air conditioners were included.
They went into the low, let's see, I had Tanya put it in there.
Probably in general supplies.
She's probably gonna come in here in a minute.
No, it's a purchase service because we contracted it.
Okay.
And so because it's a contracted purchase service, it's where it ended up.
In this line right here. Yeah.
Which one?
The 6519.
Yeah.
So, yeah, that it would not be as a supply, but as a purchase service because we're contracting the work. It would be a 6,300, but yeah.
Could it be in, if you go up a page, with non-tech repair and maintenance?
No, it'd be a purchase service.
Well, that is purchase services.
No,
Go up a
going back
page.
There's more.
Go up a page. You're still in purchase services, that last line there. Could it be in that?
Yeah, it could be. It could be in either one of those two, I think, would hold an eligible expenditure. What I can tell you is it's in there.
Well, it's in there.
Well, no surprises. Oh, we thought it was in there, but it's not. No surprises. I find it interesting that electricity and natural gas are called supplies, but your water is called a purchase service. They're all utilities.
I do want to make a note on electricity. For the first time, based on kind of where our program is as a whole, we were able to project a reduction in the overall, based on the solar and what we're doing. We had been budgeting roughly $220,000 for the electricity, and we're able to come off to that to roughly $165.
Mm-hmm. I like it.
When is all that supposed to level out?
I'd say mid-year,
Yeah.
when you
At
remember
least.
the bill came in here, Entergy was still doing some credits, but there's still going to be an ongoing expense. So what Entergy was doing was just pulling those back as credits as a part of that. I would hope, I wished everybody just cash flowed neutral and we could
Be done,
see
right.
exactly where we're at, but I think it's going to take most of this year.
Yeah, because I know last month was like
Right.
a almost 50,000, or 47,000.
So
Okay.
that's the expenditure side. Now for a prediction of revenue collection. Of course, we're heavily laden and reliant upon.
You know I don't like budgeting an overspend.
A what?
An overspend.
Now, how many times have you done that so far?
I know, we've
Since you've
done
been on the board, how
probably
many times have
every
you done that?
time, but I still don't like it.
But if we run it like 92%, we're okay. Historically, 95, so.
She just does not like the principal
I
matter
know.
of
I do
improving.
not like
I
to
know.
budget more than you have coming in. It just doesn't
But I'm
make sense in my
also a
brain.
realist to know that I can either go zero-based and make sure your expenditure is below your revenue, or I could inflate the revenue and fall short on the revenue.
Well, you better
And
not
so
do that.
we're not going to do that either. So we're trying to give you accurate predictions of the revenue collection.
I like that part. We
So-
need to be accurate.
So with that, you can kind of see the varied areas, and we're very blessed here in Fountain Lake to be a district that's exceeding, we don't have those totals there, but I can see two numbers. It takes us about 12 million immediately. And so when you think about, the state's allocation of funding, it's very minimal in the overall context. Here again, be mindful, this is funds 1, 2, and 4.
Right.
We still have reflection of federal money that comes into our budget, food service as well as Fund 8. But as a whole, we feel pretty comfortable that our collections would be in the 17,700,000 range, with an overall projected expenditures of slightly over 18 million, with no intent to deficit spend.
Good. But the federal funds, well,
You do have, this is, so when you look at the grand, a couple of things that I would say to you that where's some variables? How do you make that happen? At a federal level, when you think about restricted funds that may be available, we infuse some collection approaches with Medicaid since I've been here, and have really consistently been able to obtain $150,000 where there's some money coming in some other
that
areas.
you're not listing here
that
on
we're
this
not
revenue.
listing as a component to the overall revenue. So your revenue allocations have expenditures sometimes tied to them that are restricted in nature that we can, at some point within the budgetary year, if we have an item
But
that would be eligible for that expense, we can expend it over there, even though it may be budgeted in Fund 2, we could still expend it in Fund 6.
okay, but if you get federal funds that are limited as to how you can spend them, are you still reflecting those expenditures in this total expenditure report?
We don't,
You don't even take
the
it?
only thing, we still have we do all of our work with federal money due to the carryover
In a
in
separate
its
budget?
own separate pot. So what
Okay.
you get to see here, what I mentioned to you was more of it's not an activity account. It's like an activity account where it's cash in, cash out.
Right,
But Medicaid is based off the number of kids that we serve.
yeah.
And so the number of claims that we make, number of kids that's in the system, that's a tough number to budget for on these. So we always budget an expenditure amount less than what we would collect in revenue. Now, you heard that we have 30 new children that may have a wide array of needs.
Right.
Potentially, there may be services rendered there that we could budget for that we never predicted, and so there might be an allotment of additional revenue.
Yeah.
And then you could use some of these expenditures on Fund 2 if
Yes.
they're eligible expenses
Gotcha.
in that fund account.
Yeah, that makes
So,
sense.
We
Okay.
try to use anytime we can a restricted account for the purpose, if we have a Fund 2 expenditure that can be expended in a restricted account,
Yes.
we would
Do it
like to,
in
we want to reduce those restricted
Yes.
accounts first because they're only eligible for certain expenditures.
there. Okay. Any other questions, budget or expense? Okay, so,
So the two highlights in general, you see the two numbers, but we are trying to set you up to do the AC within, for the school buses, and we are using some discretionary funds out of local effort to help offset, to cover the bonus that will be provided in November.
okay. All right, so, any other questions? The motion is to approve the 23-24 Fountain Lake School District budget. All in favor, say aye. Aye. None opposed, that is approved 4-0. The next
You want to
motion,
spend some?
huh?
You want to spend some?
Yeah, let's do some of that.
Let's.
Yeah,
Motion to approve the purchase of a replacement freezer for the cafeteria in the amount of $33,832.87.
Was that in your budget?
this comes
Yeah,
out of
this
the
is
food
Fund Aid.
budget.
Now, this is a great teachable moment. You want to take this one?
I can
Mrs.
do this
Greason?
one. Because since we went to Chartwell's, we have not been running in the red like we used to. We've been running in the black
So,
and
Mr. Kimball, can you
accumulating
go
some
back to the
money.
year-to-date summary?
Yeah.
Mrs. Herring is dying. We're gonna let Mrs. Herring explain this. Because it's easy to see what we're looking at here is an expenditure out of food service. It's a freezer. It's a allowable expense out of Fund 8.
Yes.
So you can see that there's ample resources in the beginning fund balance to cover that expense and protect Funds 2 in the context of the expenditure.
Mhm. It's appropriately being spent out of Fund 8.
Yeah.
Yes.
And
Good
Yeah,
question.
and
though.
two,
what happened to it?
Yeah, so I mean, we've been putting some money into it over the last probably 5 years.
Is this the
and,
walk-in?
This is well, we have two outside walk-in freezers.
Uh-huh.
One of them, the one we're replacing, is 18 years old, and the other one is 21 years old. So my plan is do this one this year, and then we've just been spending some money on both of them. Probably the toughest summer we've been through. Of course, it's been really hot, but
Right.
so by USDA standards, we have to send them all of our logs monthly.
Yeah.
So we're required to keep them operating all of our food between 0 and 8 of 10. So we've spent many weekends up here in the last 2 months, making sure these things are still running, transferring food back and forth. So
It's time for a freezer.
it's time
Yes.
for a freezer. So next year, I'd like to do the same thing to replace the other one.
And this is another one that will be outdoors.
This is an outdoor freezer. It's 8 by 10. It's gonna sit on the current 8 by 10 slab that we already have, so we're not pouring concrete. This already comes charged, so they just drop it, our electrician hooks it up, and we're moving the food.
Okay.
One last thing I'll note on this, I think we'll see a really good energy reduction going this route. So we currently have, our current small freezer, the 8 by 10, is down. So we have a leased unit in place right now, and that leased unit's getting covered as an eligible item to get paid for out of Fund 8 as well. So we currently have a temporary one there with half of our food in it. But our current unit, literally, if we set it to -10, it may take it 2 days to reach that temperature. And this we've had ASO check it, we've had climate control check it, it's just time.
Just old.
Yeah, just old.
Look, when you get old, you slow down.
Yeah, so when we brought this lease unit in, within 6 hours, it was -10. So I think that compressor staying off is really gonna see a slight impact on our energy bill.
Yeah, nice.
So, yeah.
Nice. Any other questions, board? All right, the motion is to approve the purchase of a replacement freezer for the cafeteria in the amount of $33,832.87. All in favor, say aye. Aye. None opposed. That motion is also approved 4-0.
Got one we're adding for the sign. It won't be on your list.
That is correct.
Motion to approve purchase of LED sign in the amount of $52,506.19.
Okay, I think we've talked that one
We've talked that
through.
one.
Yeah.
And that one is a tipped tax vendor, just so you know.
Ace is
Yeah,
a
it is tipped
tip
out, and on the freezer, had to go out for bids, so I
Okay.
haven't bid that project.
All right, so, any other questions about that? If not, the motion is to purchase a new LED sign in the amount of $52,506.19. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
none opposed, that motion is approved, 4-0.
Motion to hire the following for the correlating positions for the remainder of the 23-24 school year. Jocelyn Robbins, paraprofessional, and Cassidy Bailey, paraprofessional.
Okay, which building?
These were special
Special
education.
education, right?
Okay, yeah.
So earlier we asked Ms. Mushrush about, the load.
Was she getting close to?
Does this, because we've hired several paraprofessionals in the past
Few months, it
months,
seems
it
like.
seems like. Is that because we didn't hire other positions, or is this to keep us?
From having to hire a full teacher?
When you think about some of those roles, I would just allude to, really is dependent upon individual needs and situations. So you got two things you're thinking about. The safety and support of the individual student sometimes can be supported through a para. However, you may ask about a teacher, and that's relevant to caseloads. Mr. Campbell, you want to kind of allude to the teacher side.
Right, so it just varies depending on what kind of course load they have, what they're teaching, the self-contained or the resource, that sort of thing. We would have to hire additional teachers if we get beyond the point where we have enough certified staff to be holders.
To serve those children.
To serve those children. These paraprofessionals are being recommended to be hired. They're not quite one-on-one, but we have some pretty high-need students, personal care, constant companion. Everywhere they go, they've got to have someone to go with them, and so it's not quite one-to-one, but it's really close. A number of the students that have moved in require a significant amount of assistance.
What's the average that they hold, the folders they hold?
The average what?
The average folders that one.
That one para holds?
No,
Or one teacher?
I know.
Depends on what they're teaching, like a co-teacher may only be able to hold 18 folders.
Right.
Because of the regular classroom situation. The other ones I think are 25.
Yeah, resource would be 25. The self-contained
I think
is probably 15.
Yeah, I think that's right.
On their folders. The speech therapist can hold 40 or 45, but they're seeing specifically, normally they hold the speech-only folders. At times they'll hold some of the others. Speech is primarily what the kids being seen for, but so it just, we're close on count, and one of the frustrating things is that the retirement law changed, and you have to be retired for 4 months now, and then you could return. But we'll be looking at those October 1 numbers to help us determine whether or not we're beyond standard, because October 1 is when we have to
Official date.
re-get the count.
Yeah.
We do a special ed count December 1. But November 1 would be the date, the 4-month mark for those folks who've retired either from here or from some other school district. Because when you're thinking about looking for a special education teacher in October or November, you're probably going to be looking at someone who's recently retired, yeah. But
Good question.
it doesn't quite match up on the timelines right now.
Right.
So. But we're hopeful that we can make it, but we have it in mind that it's possible we could have to ask for another special education teacher.
Yeah. Okay.
Those paras coming in under 183 days or 180?
They're 178-day contracts, but then prorated to their start date.
I was just trying to find that schedule
Yeah.
in here.
It'll have 2 columns because there's a degree column too. as
For a
you're
para?
Paging down, yeah.
Okay.
I found
One of
one,
these-
183. There's a 178, single
178.
column, but that's for custodians.
Yeah, now, 183 will be the two column, is it two column?
Yes.
That's the pair, 183. 100,
Starting at
100.
18,275 annual.
Mhm.
Caps out at $23,900 for a para.
Thank you. All right, any other questions? We have a motion to hire the following for the correlating positions for the remainder of the 23-24 school year. Jocelyn Robbins, paraprofessional, and Cassidy Bailey, paraprofessional. All in favor, say aye. Aye. None opposed, that motion is approved 4-0. One more motion.
Motion to assign high school beta club stipends to Mandy Robertson and Stacy Heston for the 23-24 school year.
These are not,
These are not new, right?
we're just,
No.
We've had these, we're just
Giving
giving
them
them
somebody
to.
else.
Yes, it's not, you're not approving a new stipend, you're
No.
just approving the assignment.
Assignment,
for
okay,
us
I just
to
want to
pay
make sure
those
it's not a
individuals.
new.
Yes.
Yeah.
okay.
That's why I put a sign in the motion. but
Yeah.
I thought,
Well,
Makes-
and it does make sense, but I just want to make
Yeah.
sure it's, you know.
Yep.
um,
Okay, so the motion is to assign high school beta club stipends to Mandy Robertson and Stacy Heston for the 23-24 school year. All in favor say aye. Aye. None opposed, that motion's approved 4-0. Is there anything else from anybody here? Comments, questions? Okay, the board will be adjourning to executive session for a short bit. There will be no voting when we come out, so we are going to not adjourn the meeting until that is finished, but for all intents and purposes, the meeting is concluded.